Cassandra Wallace, thank
Yes.
you and welcome to the What, Why, and How Can I podcast. Again, thank you so much for making time and being a guest on the show. Growing up, I've always seen different pageants and people talk about different pageants and Mrs. California and Mrs. United States and World and your Mrs. Universe and Mrs. World. I think you have a couple titles, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, please correct me.
Yeah, I have a few, but they're a mouthful, so you're good.
Okay. So this is super exciting just to kind of get to know you, what it is you do, what is Mrs. World, I mean, what everything is about, and then moving on to the why you do this. Maybe there's something, like a deeper story or a love for what you do, and then how others can one influence, because I know you use your platform to influence things around the world for like a good causes and stuff like that. So I would love for you to kind of introduce yourself, what you're about, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me here. It's such an honor and a privilege to be on your podcast. So thank you so very much.
Of course.
All right. Yeah, I'm Cassandra Wallace. I'm the current Miss World America and Miss World International Mrs. So
Okay.
kind of a mouthful. It's an international pageant that's been around for 15 years, and it's very unique in that they also film a reality TV show about pageants at the same time that the pageant's going on.
Oh
So
wow.
for 3 days, instead of like, okay, I'm only on stage for a few minutes and someone's watching me and then I'm on break, you're not. You're followed by film crews the entire time. So it's kind of fun and different. You get a lot of like really cool footage about everything that's going on, and it's just a very unique experience for that aspect. And you get to do a lot of like fun activities like paddleboarding and going on yacht rides and different things because they're, trying to film and do a
Mm-hmm,
backstory,
mm-hmm.
get to know about the contestants more. So you get to definitely like know everybody you're competing against on a whole nother level. So it's really fun and wonderful. And I would just encourage anybody that wants to get into doing pageants. The Miss World International pageant is phenomenal. You should check it out.
Okay, so where you mentioned there's like a documentary, is it live TV or is this coming out at a later date? How does that happen?
Well, we filmed the first season last year when I was there in Miami, and they're filming season 2 this October. So I'll be
Mm-hmm.
there for that as well. And it's been bought up by a major network, and it's gonna be released, but I don't have the release date yet. So just something to kind of stay tuned for that it's in
Okay.
the works. So
Wow, that's exciting. That's exciting.
yeah.
Okay, so what is the a pageant like? The purpose, is it just like a hobby? I really don't know what it is, and so I would love to learn from you like what a pageant is, because I know there's multiple different kinds, and like you've mentioned.
Yeah, totally. So different pageants are run kind of different, but I'll just talk about the one I was in since
Mm-hmm.
that's the one I know best.
Mm-hmm.
Really, there's a huge difference between when you've got like the Miss pageants where you got like the 18-year-old girls and they've got a talent portion. When you're older, like myself, or you've been married
Mm-hmm.
or have kids, they get rid of the talent portion and instead it's replaced with what's called your platform. And basically, what a platform is it's you doing something in the community. So you pick a cause that you're passionate about, you pick an organization, and you go volunteer there. And so basically, you have to explain to the judges why you love this organization, what you're doing for them, why you're passionate. And that's like 25% of your score in the pageant. So
Okay.
that's a big part of it. It also is a lot of networking. So, like, there's a lot of charities I've never heard of before, but going in an international pageant, I get the opportunity to meet all these beautiful, wonderful ladies from all over the world and to be able to volunteer with their nonprofits and help them.
Mm-hmm.
And a really cool example of this is so the international queens all over the world, we found this opportunity in Haiti where there's boys that get sponsored to play. It's football over there, but soccer here. It's kind of confusing,
Mm-hmm.
but there's never been girls sponsored to play. So girls
Oh
wanted to play,
wow.
but nobody would sponsor them. So we are like collectively as a group of queens all over the world, like South Africa, UK, Greece, Canada, US, we're like, hey, let's figure out how to get people to sponsor these girls so they can play.
Mm-hmm.
So none of us had heard of this organization before. We all became ambassadors for the Youth Football League in Haiti. And actually, starting this month, they're doing the opening games, and there's over 144 girls that we got to help sponsor to play football for the first time ever. So
Wow.
that's, to me, is what pageants are all about. Is, hey, let's take a group of strong, beautiful, independent, go-getter women, and let's pull our forces together and do some good in the world. So that's the main drive for me behind why I want to be in pageants. Is it's just a network to be able to reach people to do something to make an impact.
Okay, that's awesome. So, if I understood this correctly, a pageant is just a place or like a networking tool where girls come together to obviously do good, but also have a little competition between each other just for fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to win, so it's
Yes.
competitive. It's like playing a sport. You
Okay.
you love the people you're with, but you also want them to lose.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's tough. You've got to be like physically, it's kind of grueling because you're walking in like 6.5 inch heels on slippery floor or on boardwalks, and you have to be able to do turns perfectly, and supposed to smile or change your facial expressions and be captivating and unique. And it's hard to stand out as when you're in a room full of really gorgeous people. It's like, okay, how do you get someone's attention? So it's a little bit of a like strategy mentally as well. So there's a swimsuit portion of it where
Hmm.
some wear one pieces, some do two pieces. The division I was in does two pieces, which I prefer. And you have to do a costume portion, and then you have to explain your costume to the judges on why you picked that. And then you have an interview portion, which is probably the hardest part,
Hmm.
honestly, because you have a panel of judges you've never met before. They're sitting right in front of you, and then it's blinding lights behind. So you can't really see them well enough to they're there, but you can't
Yeah.
quite read their expressions. Like
That you don't
normally
know
when
if
you're
they're happy with you or not.
yeah. So
Okay.
normally when you're talking to someone, you can be like, okay, like I can see how this is going. Also, it's timed. So you've got
Oh
like
wow.
2 minutes or 5 minutes to somehow wow these judges with your answers and say something magical and cool that nobody else says or
Yeah.
sounds better and be more convincing. So it's
You
it's
know.
definitely like a time crunch thing, and then you go
Hmm.
back. You don't get to know the questions ahead of time or anything like that, so it's all on your feed. And you also don't get to watch anybody else, so you don't know, like, okay, did I do good or not? You don't know until the very end when you're out there in front of everybody and they're like, okay, who made the top 10, who made the top 5, and it's whittling down, and then that's how you know how you did.
Man, that's crazy. That's a lot of pressure. When when you were saying trying to say something special or something, I'm remembering all the kind of the YouTube reels that were popular when girls in pageants say something ridiculous,
Yeah.
or something just super funny. So I was kind of dying right there, but um, that's crazy. I mean, you're definitely doing well in this interview. I mean, 10 out of 10 for sure. So what types of questions do they ask, or what is their goal is to get what out of you? Like, what are they grading on? Are they grading on like the way you speak, or they what exactly are they looking for?
Well, they're grading you on a few things. So eye contact. So, how are you presented yourself? Are you poised? Are you saying are you stumbling over your words? Do you sound like you prepared, even though you don't know what the answers are? Do you
Yeah.
sound prepared for anything thrown at you? That's why you get girls giving crazy answers is they're talking until they can come up with something to say, because if you're quiet, that's the worst thing you can do. So it definitely I think they're trying to find out who's genuine is what I would say the biggest thing that they're trying to determine, and
Hmm.
also who's going to be a good representation of the pageant system, because different pageants try and promote different things. So some give you modeling contracts, some give you deals with makeup lines, some just want their charity promoted, some just want their organization promoted. So whatever the drive behind your specific pageant is, they're
Hmm.
kind of looking for that.
Okay.
So I think the hardest question I got asked, which totally like floored me as, my first question out there was like, they're like, hi, say your name. So, I said, hi, nice to meet you guys. And they're like, okay, first question, who do you think should win the pageant, but not yourself? So if you're going to pick someone other than you, who's going to win here?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like not a question that I had like prepped for on any level. And so
Right.
I was like, okay, cool. And I just like went with it. There was one of the girls in the pageant was from Romania and ended up moving to the US here. And she started up a nonprofit where the same orphanage that she was in,
Hmm.
they donate school supplies and Christmas presents and goodies to all of those kids because she wants to give back because that's where she came
Wow, that's
from.
awesome. Uh-huh.
And I thought that was so incredible and impactful. So I was like, you guys should totally pick her. That is like the coolest platform ever. And so, yeah, I talked about her for like a minute,
Yeah, yeah.
like 5 minutes. But yeah, so sometimes they ask you like that's not a typical pageant question that I've heard before. So it's just kind of whatever the judges feel like asking.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So you mentioned platform a couple times, and your pageant kind of you said 25% of it is based on the platform that you create. So is before you enter or when you enter the pageant, you already have to have this platform?
You do, but you don't have to disclose what it is. So like
Okay.
if change your mind at the last minute and want to do something different, it's just you have to be prepared. Typically the judges will ask you questions about your platform, like what is your platform? Tell me about it. Like what draws you to it? What's your why? Why are you here? Why are you doing this? Like what motivates you in life? What would you do if you won? And those are all things that you can then pull from if you've got a really good platform and be like, hey, I'm here to bring awareness to, whatever your platform is. And if I win, I'm going to give it a lot of attention. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to volunteer. And it's a good, for your interview portion, it's a good talking point to have because you have to have some sort of information to share. Otherwise, like they were like, that's nice. You're pretty. Okay. There's like a million of you, like, so you have to have something cool. So like my platform, for example, Fishline is this really cool, unique food bank in the town that I live in.
Hmm.
And I actually used to get food there as a little kid. So for
Wow.
me, I'm super passionate about it, about giving back, because I used to get food there. And I know firsthand that you cannot reach your full potential in life without a full stomach. It's really hard to learn in school if your stomach's empty. It's really hard to study and to get a job if you don't have food in your tummy. And so, what's unique about this food bank is instead of just giving people, okay, here's food, like move on, whatever.
Hmm.
They have set it up so they'll teach budgeting to people. They'll teach
Wow.
you different things to help you move on to the next step. If you've got the drive to improve your station in life, they will give you the tools, which is, I think, so much more important than just a handout. So if you're like, hey, I have a job interview coming up and I don't know how to do interviews, they'll do mock interviews with you. If you're like, hey, I got a job interview coming up, I don't have any professional clothes, they'll help you find professional clothes to wear for your interview. Tools like that can make the difference between you landing a job where now you no longer need free food, or you,
Hmm.
getting stuck at a job that doesn't pay enough for you to buy your own groceries. So I think it's a really fantastic organization and I love it. And that was my platform.
That's awesome. It's like a place kind of that sets people up for success, like you said, not just hands out,
Yes,
not just
absolutely.
handouts.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So what is it like competing? I mean, you mentioned there is a bunch of beautiful girls. Obviously, you want to win and you want the other ones to lose. So is there like this girl drama going on? Is everybody being professional? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that largely depends on the pageant system. So the one I was in, everybody was very professional and very polite. Like nobody was catty or like sabotaging anybody
Mm-hmm.
backstage or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it is competitive. So, you are like hoping somebody, kind of messes up and you
Trips or
are hoping
something.
that, like that you have some edge or something. But everybody was like, all the ladies were super kind and supportive. So as soon as someone would come everyone off of stage, everyone would be like, great job. I'm sure you did good. Or, just like some sort of positive affirmation. Or like if one of the girls is like, my dress is stuck, I can't get it zipped, you just chip in and you'd help if you were there for one another. So
Mm-hmm,
that's
mm-hmm.
kind of a refreshing thing. You don't often get that in pageants, and you don't often get that in a group of women competing against each other. But that was definitely true in this pageant. So I really appreciated that for sure.
That's awesome. I can imagine. What? So you won,
Yes.
obviously. Share a little bit about your experience. Kind of what did you think you were winning? Did
Yeah.
you find out like, oh my gosh, what I just won? I screwed up so many times, and I can't believe I just beat all these girls. Or did you notice that something kind of set you apart?
I think I was actually the underdog going in, to be completely honest. I had the least amount of pageant experience. I had never won an international title before. Many
Hmm.
of the girls I was going against were current international title holders or had previously been. Many of them had directed pageants. I never had. I for sure had the least amount of experience. I think I'd seen two pageants by the time I was in it. Like I just didn't have the same background that everyone did. And so I actually had a lot of the girls approach me and be like, you're not actually going to win, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I'm just going to be happy if I like walk across stage and I don't do a face plant. It's all good. So
Yeah.
I was like totally relaxed because I was like, yes, I clearly don't stand a shot. It's okay. I'm going to go out and do the best version of me and I'm going to have a wonderful time. And I'm here, which is impressive in its own right, given my like limited time in the industry. And so it's going to be great. And so, no, I did not think that I was winning at all. And so
Wow.
it was actually kind of funny because we got down to it and like to get called for like the top five
Hmm.
and standing there and one of the girls was like, she's like nudging me, she's like, they called your name, and I was like, what? I like looked around and they're like, no, go. And then the same thing happened when I won. They're like said my name and I'm like just stood there like totally frozen, and the director's looking at me like, do something, and I was like, oh my gosh. Because
That's
I was just
crazy.
like in shock. I was like, you didn't really just pick me, did you? Like so
That's awesome.
it was really fun and totally unexpected. And I just feel so grateful and blessed that I've been given this opportunity.
That's awesome. That's super cool. That's probably I mean, it's always a good feeling when you win, but especially when you're like not expecting it, it's just like a double blessing.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
how did all of this start? You mentioned you've only seen two pageants before you won this one. Why'd you start doing pageants, or maybe how did that all happen?
Yeah, so I decided to go. One of our casinos here does local bikini contests, and I was like, that sounds fun. I've never done a bikini contest. I don't know. I just wanted to try it.
Mm-hmm.
So they had you fill out paperwork before you got in, and they said, okay, there's going to be a portion where you're going to walk across the stage, and we're going to read something about you. So write something, tell us something about you. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've done a lot of volunteer work in Africa over the years, and so I was just writing down about like all the like cool trips I got to go do and the volunteer stuff in Africa. And so I get up there and there was like professional people that have done bikini competitions before. And again, I had like no experience. I just thought it sounded like a fun thing to enter. And so
Mm-hmm.
I get up there and I do it, ended up winning. And so at the end, I went to go thank the judges because I was like super excited that I won this bikini contest. And
Yeah.
one of the judges was like, hey, if you like volunteer work, you should totally join a pageant. And I was like, oh, I've never seen a pageant. And also, I'm old. Like, I've had kids. I'm not 18. Like, I'm too old to do that. And I'm married. And
Yeah.
she's like, no, you can totally do pageants, when you're older than 18. And I was like, what? Like, that's my limited pageant knowledge. I had no idea you could.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay. So I signed up and I was Mrs. Paulsbo, which is the town that I live in. And then I was Mrs. Washington, which is the state that I live in. And then from Washington, I went and won Miss World America. And then I went on to win Miss World International Misses. So it was kind of a quick progression. Like that all took place in a span of like just under 2 years. So
Wow.
that's my brief
Congratulations.
history. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So definitely not, when you're competing against people that have watched pageants since they were like little girls or done stuff like that, that it's just a whole different ball game. Like everyone's like, hey, these are all the rules and these are all the stuff you're supposed to do. And then I come in, I don't know any of the rules and I don't know
Yeah.
any of the stuff. And I think though that it kind of worked to my advantage because some of the things that I just did because it was just me, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that it came across more genuine. Like I got in trouble because I overdress up for things, but I figured why not? Like if you're a beauty queen, doesn't that mean you get to like overdress? So
Right.
I'd show up at charity events that were like fun runs, so like 5Ks or whatever, and I'd have on my like crown and my sash and a ball gown, and I'd run the races in that. And I mean, they're all for like charity events and stuff, and it was super fun. And you bring my twins along with me, and
Mm-hmm.
they love to wear Halloween costumes. So they're like Batman and Spider-Man, and then here I am in ball gown. And that's what I'd go do. And I'd always get grief from people being like, can't do that, can't do that. And but then the media would come to be
Mm-hmm.
interviewing somebody who had this like really cool title, and they'd be like in their yoga pants, and then they'd see me in my ball gown, and they'd be like, nope, we're gonna interview her.
Right.
Oh no, I'm like the bottom person. Like that's who you want to be talking to. Like I'm the newbie. I'm not whatever. And they're like, nope, we're interviewing you. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay. So it actually like I think it helped my like novice and not knowing what everybody else was supposed to be doing. So sometimes I think just being yourself is better than following all the rules.
yeah. For sure. I think always, almost always is best to be yourself. Obviously, that's why you won. Honestly, when I thought you were gonna answer the why question, I was expecting you to say like, when I was a little girl, I did all these pageants and dances, and there's all these like reality TV shows now that there's all these competitions between young girls and from like age 10 or even younger. They're competing and they're trying to mold these girls into women for these pageants.
Yeah.
But like you said, you were this newbie kind of that came in super genuine with everything because you didn't know all the rules, which is a cool story in itself. Um, so if there are girls that want to be in pageants, or maybe they volunteer for an organization, they want to bring more attention to that organization. How
Mhm.
could they be more involved in like different things, different pageants and different stuff like that could bring in more attention?
Yeah, so there's this online thing. It's called Pageant Planet. So it's this huge conglomeration of every pageant on the planet, as the name sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So just depends on what you're looking for. So certain pageants are tailored to, certain ages, if you've had kids, if you've not had kids, a whole bunch of different things. So you can use the filters in there to kind of see like what might be a good fit for you pageant wise,
Mm-hmm.
and then just kind of go from there. I mean, there's so many ways to volunteer and give back. Like if you don't have a charity that you're currently working with, just take whatever your interest is and put it into Google, and trust me, there's a nonprofit that is doing whatever your random interest is. Like
Right.
just sometimes it's the most weirdest things, and there you go. So now you can do something you love and you enjoy, and you can give back and you can make a huge difference. So that's how I found a lot of organizations that I've worked with is I've just looked online, and then I've called people up and been like, hey, can I come help you? They're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
who are you? I'm like, it's okay. I just want to come volunteer. And they're like, okay. And I show up and it's wonderful. So
That's awesome. So, what opportunities kind of like has this exposed you to, and like you said, what things are you working on now?
yeah, so I've got to do some really cool things. So like the football league in Haiti that I was talking about,
Mm-hmm.
super excited about that. I actually found another nonprofit just by looking on the internet that all they do is they donate brand new soccer balls to kids in impoverished areas.
Mm-hmm.
So that organization is called Charity Ball. So I've worked with them to get them to donate 50 soccer balls. So I'm taking 50 soccer balls with me down to Haiti later this month, and I'm
That's
going to go watch
awesome.
the opening games and cheer on the girls because a lot of the girls there aren't encouraged to stay in school and they're not encouraged to play sports. And so they're really trying to get an initiative going to encourage women to do that because your world is so much richer and broader if you can read and if you can write. And sports have a lasting impact. You can learn confidence, you can learn teamwork, just so many things that are hugely valuable. And in extremely poor areas, they don't have sports in school and they don't have the opportunity to do that. And then the Football League in Haiti also is partnering with educational institutions. So if any of the youth on the league are doing well academically, they get the opportunity to go to school abroad to places where there's better education, and they partner with professional football players. So the kids are athletically inclined. They can also get athletic scholarships. So it's a huge opportunity. It's not just like rec sport, which in and of itself is hugely valuable as well, but it's
Right.
so much more. So that's kind of been my pet project the last few months that I've been working on, getting sponsors for kids and setting up the trip and all of the logistics with that. And then I also help volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club here locally where I live,
Mhm.
which is a really amazing after school care program. So the kiddos there have same concept, have really cool adults and teens that are pouring into their lives, that are helping them with their homework, that are giving them access to a library and internet in case they don't have that at home, and a safe place to be. So it's a really cool organization. So I've been working with that a lot. And then aside from charity, just some of the kind of random fun things that have happened from being in the pageant is I've got to be in a lot of magazines, which
Mhm.
is super fun. And I like never in my wildest dreams would have thought that I could have been on the cover of a magazine, but I've
Yeah.
got to do that. Super fun. And I was approached by PG Spirit Paris, which is a perfume line, and they watched a bunch of my podcasts and read a bunch of my interviews, and then designed a perfume based off of like my personality. So it was like me and a smell, I guess.
That's
But
crazy.
yeah, isn't that so cool? I was
That
like
is cool.
so curious waiting in the mail for it to arrive. Gonna be like, what's this gonna smell like? But it smells really good, and it was just kind of a crazy, magical, wonderful experience to be like, oh, I have a perfume named after me. I'm like, what?
That is hecka cool. Uh, a perfume after like a characteristic or a personality. After a person. I was about to say human. That is super cool. Wow. Um, so like, what's your end goal with these pageants? I mean, obviously this is a super cool platform kind of to influence other underprivileged kids around the world and in your hometown. Do you see yourself doing pageants, I mean, time and time again, or year after year? Do you have to compete every year or keep competing? How does all that work?
Well, I've topped out in the pageant system I was in. Like, there's nowhere more to go.
Okay.
Do have a sister pageant that I will be competing in 2021, and then I'm
Ooh,
done. I don't have any more to do.
that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm super excited just because I love the director, I love the system, and the just everything about it, the sisterhood. And for me, though, the biggest thing is I would like to leave a good example for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, sort of a catalyst of why I, had done the bikini competition and why I had broke out and had tried something different was my dad had died, and then I was going through his stuff and just reflecting, and I was like, man, I have three kids. I have a 7-year-old and 5-year-old twins,
Awesome.
boys. And I was thinking, I'm like, what are my kids gonna, when I'm gone one day and they look back, like, what are they gonna think of mom? What did mom teach them? What was important? What was a value? So, like, my biggest drive is I really want to set an example for my kids
Mm-hmm.
to volunteer and to give back and to make a difference. And I don't want to just tell them about it. I want to actually have them do it. So that's part of why I bring them to the fun runs. That's part of why I have them involved in a lot of my volunteer work and stuff, because I want them to know what it's like to give back and to think of others. And, little kids are just selfish by nature.
Yes.
It's a good, like, hey, like some of the, we're getting the soccer balls and the kids are checking it out, and they're like, this is so cool, look at all these new soccer balls. And I'm like, yeah, the kids getting this have never owned a soccer ball in their entire life. Like, this will be the brand new soccer ball, probably the only one they'll get in their entire life. How cool is that? And so it's just to, like, it puts it in a different frame and a perspective. And it's really important to me to set a good example for my kids. And so that's my end goal, is that one day when I'm gone, I want them to look back and be like, hey, this is what mom taught us and showed us by example and forced us to do. And hopefully they learned and retained it.
Oh, for sure. That is actually such that is so wise, because I feel like especially today in 2020, I'm not going to say all, but many kids, I mean, many kids have everything they want and more than they need. And I feel like sometimes growing up, we might feel a little bit ungrateful for what we have. And that is a beautiful way to kind of, you know, raise your kids in a way showing them like, hey, not everybody gets whatever they want. Not everybody has a mom and dad that takes care of them. Not everybody buys them what they want. And that's almost like a super healthy family, it sounds like. So thank you for doing that. Yeah, that's awesome. That makes me so happy because growing up, in my church, we would travel to Mexico, and I went down there a couple times to an orphanage, and that just helped me put my life into perspective. And even though it wasn't anything crazy, but it just kind of helped me appreciate what I do have. And I feel like if more kids maybe had moms like yourself, they'd appreciate what they have. So that's super cool. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. That's very sweet of you.
Yes, and I think that's a wrap for me, and I'll be definitely following you on Instagram. Where can people find you, follow you, support you, or maybe you have a website?
Yeah, I do. So Instagram is a great way to find me. It's just at cassandra.bannon.wallace.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on there a lot. That's a good way to find me. My website is Cassandra Wallace at shopsocialscenes.com. You can also find me on there. Those are the best ways to find me. And please do track me. I'll be posting updates on my trip to Haiti and other volunteer stuff that I have in the works. So feel free to check.
Awesome. Thank you, Cassandra.